You're dialed in to the Verizon Wireless Tailgate Show on the Georgia Bulldog Radio Network from ISP. Verizon, your signal reigns on America's largest and most reliable wireless network. The Verizon Wireless Tailgate Show is also sponsored by BB&T, best bank in town since 1872. The Georgia Egg Commission, eggs, nature's miracle food. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Marathon Petroleum, fueling the American spirit. By Georgia Farm Bureau and Farm Bureau Insurance. The Jim Ellis family of automotive dealerships. By ServPro, fire and water damage cleanup and restoration. ServPro, like it never even happened. By Foremost. Find the Foremost agency at foremost.com. Foremost for you. Gordo's Mexican restaurant-style cheese dip. Authentic Mexican restaurant-style cheese dip. Cook's Pest Control and Centricon. The unbeatable combination for termite protection. By Bulldog Banking from Bank of America. Georgia Power, official power source of the Georgia Bulldogs. And by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. From Williams-Brice Stadium in Columbia, South Carolina, here's your host, Neil Hondo Williamson.
We have a cool morning with some nice cloud cover right now, but it's going to burn off and be hot, about 86 degrees by 1 o'clock today with a 30% chance of rain. Hi, everybody. Along with Lauren Smith, Scott Howard, and Eric Zier, this is Hondo. We're broadcasting on the field from the 42-yard line. Today at high noon, our Georgia Bulldogs will embark on the 2010 SEC campaign against South Carolina. Our engineer here in Columbia is Charles Youngs. Our studio host and producer is David Shoemate. And we have the Lowe's stage here from the Verizon Wireless Tailgate Show. And let's get right down to some football. Up in the press box, Scott Howard. Nothing wrong with a 55-7 cakewalk in the opener, but today our Bulldogs will face another level of competition entirely.
Yes, indeed. Top 25 matchup today. South Carolina at this point in the season. You know, it's always been in this series anyway. It's always been a dogfight, or I guess from their view, it's been a cockfight. But it's always been tight. It seems that's the tradition of this series. And as the season has gone along since Carolina's been in the SEC, you know, their chances at getting to Atlanta for a championship have always faded in late October or in November. So Georgia has always caught these guys when they're at their best, when optimism is at the highest peak, and I think that has a lot to do with the reason that this has always been such a tough game. I mean, Carolina, they still have will at this point in the season. You know, they haven't lost 2 or 3 conference games, and they know they can't get to the championship game. Right now, they still have a chance, and that's kind of the situation today with the conference opener.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I just from seeing thank you, Hondo. Just from talking to many people here in Carolina, the optimism is unbelievably high right now. I think what we're going to see today, I think we have a fresh team with our Georgia Bulldogs. I think we're playing fast. I think we're playing aggressive. If we can take the crowd out of the game early, I think this game may be a little bit of an aberration from what we've seen here in years past, where it's been a close football game. So many of the games decided with 7 points or less. I think we have a chance to break that open a little bit today.
Eric Zier, how did you grade out Aaron Murray in his first week under center for the Red and Black?
You know what? I thought he played exceptionally well for his first game. A few mistakes, a few bad decisions potentially there throughout the game. The one pass that he tried to throw out of the end zone when he was trying to throw the football away, you'd like to have that one back, of course. Maybe a few, if you're looking at him with a critical eye, where he got outside the pocket, ran the football, maybe should have run out of bounds or tucked it down and slid and not taken any hits. But all in all, played very aggressive, was poised, knew what he was doing, and was ready to go.
I'm going to keep my eye today on Washaun Ely. I think if Washaun Ely plays a lot, then Georgia will be faring pretty well. Just play defense, take advantage of the advantage we have in the kicking game. I think that's both the ability to perform on special teams and then the 2 kickers, Drew Butler and Blair Walsh. I think if we keep it close and run the ball, then we'll be smiling. I think you can say that it's about any game. But Washaun Ely, if he carries it a lot, I mean, if he's out there 25, 30 times, it ain't going to bother me, because that means the game plan is working. We're moving the ball on the ground, and playing good defense.
Wow. Loran, staying with you, the A.J. Green suspension, certainly the distraction has to hurt the team in some way, shape, or form.
Well, it's so unfortunate. There's nothing you can say. All of us are not allowed to speak because there's a NCAA ongoing situation. We don't know the ultimate outcome. There's an appeal involved. But as Greg McGarrett, the athletic director, and Coach Rick, the head coach, says, we're hoping for the best, but they're not saying anything more. And that's all you can say at this point because you're at the mercy of the NCAA decision.
Scott Howard, Bulldog faithful, fired up over the 3-4, and Todd Grantham's enthusiasm. What's the report card on Game 1?
It seems like that the Coach Grantham's outburst, if you will, last week after we gave up the lone touchdown to Louisiana Lafayette, that's had legs all week long. I mean, the fans really ate that up, that he was giving the defense the business on the sidelines there in front of the hedges at home last week. So the fans have certainly are juiced up over Todd Grantham, and the defense, I think, had a good performance last week. Obviously, it was not an SEC caliber opponent, but still, you hold a team to 7 points, any college football team to 7 points, and limit them to yardage the way we did, and get in the backfield with sacks and turn the ball over. I think it was a very solid defensive performance. And Game 1, long way to go, certainly, but Game 1, people are buying into it, and I certainly like what I saw last week as well.
We need to say something about that. That's Todd Grantham's coaching personality. He gets hot when mistakes are made. He was not upset with the defense that they gave up a touchdown. It was the mental mistake that he harped on. And now, but I know him. He's had his say. He's told them what was wrong, what they did wrong, and he expects better. He's forgotten it. Move on. He says there's never been a perfect game.
Very good, Lauren. Time now to cue up Bono and you too, because it's time for Eric's Desires. And Eric Zier, what do you have for us today?
Well, first thing, Hondo, is start fast. It's a noon kickoff, so we don't anticipate this crowd coming in and acting like it was an 8 o'clock kickoff. But this crowd historically is into the football game. They are a loud crowd with a lot of passion behind them. We have to start fast, get this crowd out of the game, or keep them asleep if they're asleep when they enter into the stadium. Second is let the 3-4 loose. Get in the backfield of Stephen Garcia, or the Gamecock offense. Get in the face of Stephen Garcia. He's erratic when you get back and get around his feet. Career completion percentage in the mid-50s. Let's get back there to him, create some havoc in the backfield. And then the last thing is 150 yards on the ground. For us to win today, we've got to be able to control the football, control the clock, and win on the ground first. If we do that, we're going to have some shots down the field that we can take and let Aaron Murray show off that great arm of his. But it starts with establishing the run.
Thank you, Eric, Scott, and Lauren, and we'll come back with more. Lauren Smith's Gridiron Notes are coming up, and around the SEC, Tennessee, Alabama, and Vanderbilt all host top 25 opponents today. You're listening to the Verizon Wireless Tailgate Show live from the 42-yard line at Williams-Brice Stadium in Columbia. Our Dogs going up against the Gamecocks today. This is Georgia football from ISP. Welcome back to Columbia, Georgia, and South Carolina. Top 25 matchup today from Williams-Brice Stadium. Hondo on the field along with Lauren Smith and Eric Zier. We have Charles Youngs and Scott Howard up in the press box. And glad that you're along on a Saturday morning, wherever you are in the Peach State or listening to us on the Internet. It's great to have you here. The UGA Bookstore is the only place dog fans need to shop for all the latest Georgia apparel and gifts. Shop the UGA Bookstore before and after the game. The UGA Bookstore opens 7 days a week and 24/7 online at UGAbookstore.com. It's where the dogs shop. Time now for Lauren Smith and Lauren's Gridiron Notes. Good morning, Lauren.
Good morning, Neil. We flash back to September 5th, 1992, thinking about Jacksonville State's big upset of Ole Miss last week. It had a familiar ring. Jack Crow, the current Jacksonville State head coach, was then the head coach of Arkansas. The Razorbacks opened the season against the Citadel in Fayetteville, and the Citadel won 10-3. What happened next? Frank Boyles got incensed, the athletic director, former coach, and he fired Jack Crow on Monday. Now, who was an assistant coach in that game? Houston Nutt of the now Ole Miss Rebels. he was an assistant at Arkansas at that time, so I'm sure Houston feels like that lightning does strike twice.
Boy, I'll bet. Now, how about Jack Crow will be on with us later in the show? Is that
later
right?
In the show, we'll talk to Jack. Joe Kynes got the job, interim coach, and I had dinner with Frank Boyles. We played them that year and beat them as Ray Goff's, I forgot, what was that, his third team. Anyway, I was at Frank Boyles' house for dinner, and he said Danny Ford had come over to be an advisor on defense for Joe Kynes, and Frank says, that Danny Ford really has a head coach's presence. And I thought to myself, I think I know where this job's going at the end of the season, and that's exactly what happened. But this has been a tough place for us to play over the years. But interestingly, Neil, we have a commanding lead in the series, 46-14-2. But we have had a record. We have a record 7-2 here in Williams-Brice, so that's not too bad.
All right, Loran, very nice. And how about Dan Reeves, someone who Georgia fans are certainly well-versed with and who has quite a legacy here at South Carolina?
Well, Dan Reeves was a three-sport star at America's High under Jimmy Hightower. I talked to Jimmy this week. The Summer All-Star game in 1961, I think it was, Dan Reeves had only had one offer. Our old friend Weems Baskin, who coached Beck Towns to the Olympic High Hurdle Championship, was a recruiter for South Carolina. Coach Baskin was the only one to offer Dan Reeves a scholarship. Dan was the most valuable player in the All-Star game, and everybody wanted him then. So now he's got a dilemma. What's he going to do? He made the decision after talking with his daddy. He said, you gave Coach Baskin your word. You got to go to South Carolina.
Very nice.
And old Dan is a loyal kind of guy. I thought this was neat. His whole NFL career as a head coach, Denver, New York Giants, and the Atlanta Falcons, he kept his old coach, Marvin Bass, on the payroll. He found a job for him. He just didn't have him hanging around. He found him a job. So I've always appreciated loyalty in Dan Reeves.
All right, moving to present day, kind of a cool story about Hudson Mason, our backup quarterback. They threw a TD last
I
week.
just love this story. Anytime humility envelops the story, it's just wonderful. His mother came to the game, got up at 5 o'clock in the morning in Marietta, got to Athens, in time to park on the off the East Campus Road, rode the bus down to the stadium and realized she was on the wrong side for the dog walk. Her mother needs wheelchair assistance. She pushed her mother, Patsy Hudson, for whom he is named, our young quarterback, Hudson Mason's name it took his mother's maiden name. So she pushed him all the way behind the stadium, over the bridge, found the elevator down to the ground level, and got up to the dog walk so she could see her son come through. She and her mother's sisters. Now she's at the game, and she begins to get text messages, and we can blame this little incident on technology. Her friends were texting her. They saw Hudson putting on his helmet. Looks like he's going in, so she whispered to her mother, I think Hudson's going in. So then two of her mother's friends said, what did you say? And she repeated it, and then she looked up, and Logan Gray was reaching for the touchdown pass. So she actually missed it. But I really like what she said. The family is really spiritual, and she said, we were blessed on Saturday, and says we're humbled by this. We're grateful.
All right. Thank you, Loran. Thank you for the Gridiron Notes. Lots of neat little stories, as always, from Loran Smith.
And fans, be sure to stop by any of the 45 Golden Pantry food stores in Bulldog Country to pick up all of your tailgate supplies, including delicious Oscar Mayer hot dogs. Trust your Golden Pantry food store for value and service.
Thank you, Eric Sire. Looking ahead, Scott Howard highlights from last week's crushing win over the Ragin' Cajuns. Plus, Eric Sire talks SEC football. A captivating slate of games for the conference today. This is the Verizon Wireless Tailgate Show. Dogs and Gamecocks. This is Georgia football from ISP.
Let's take a flight on a trip around the SEC, piloted by AirTran Airways. Go. There's nothing stopping you.
And good morning from the ISP Network studios as we continue with the Verizon Wireless Tailgate Show. Conference play began in earnest on Thursday night, Auburn beating Mississippi State. It continues today in Columbia And Nashville, where number 19 LSU is on the road to take on the Vanderbilt Commodores. It's a 7 o'clock kick. Vanderbilt has lost 9 straight, dating back to a win over Rice in late September last year, including all 8 of their league contests a year ago. But running back Warren Norman says the offense is off to a better start.
We was a really young team last year, and, everybody getting an extra year of experience helped us out a lot. And, we expected to be better on offense this year, and it showed on the field.
Again, a 7 o'clock kick tonight from Nashville. Also some intriguing non-conference games in the league. Number 1 Alabama hosts number 18 Penn State. A 7 o'clock kick from Tuscaloosa. This is the first time the Nittany Lions have visited Tuscaloosa since 1990, a game they won 9-0. The two played every year from 1981 to 1990, with Alabama winning 6 of those matchups. Number 17, Arkansas, is at home tonight at 7 o'clock to take on Louisiana Monroe and Little Rock. The Razorbacks are looking for their 7th straight win in Little Rock and to continue a streak that has seen them win all 8 previous meetings with Louisiana Monroe. Elsewhere, Western Kentucky is at Kentucky, a 7:30 kick in Lexington. Kentucky dominated the only previous meeting between the two in 2008. 41-3, and at 9 o'clock tonight, Mississippi looks to get up off the mat against Tulane. Lost in the spectacular finish between Ole Miss and Jacksonville State is the fact that the Rebels blew a 31-10 halftime lead and gave up 36 points after the fourth quarter began, and falling 49-48 in double overtime. Also today, number 8 Florida hosts South Florida at 12:21. In Gainesville, the Gators look completely out of sync offensively in their season-opening 34-12 win against Miami of Ohio, fumbling 8 times, including 3 that the Redhawks recovered, and only mustering 25 yards of offense through 3 quarters, negative 16 on the ground. They'll try to look much better today against South Florida. And at 7 o'clock tonight, number 7 Oregon and Tennessee. Neither team was challenged in their season opener, with the Ducks blanking New Mexico 72-0, while the Vols ran past Tennessee Martin 50-0 for their first shutout in 7 years. Confidence not in short supply heading into this one.
I don't know. You're going to have to ask the players. I know the team we're playing beat a team by about 70-something, didn't they? Yeah, so how's that for confidence?
That's Tennessee head coach Derek Dooley. And, guys, that's probably the most intriguing matchup today to see how Tennessee does against their first test of the season.
Hey, no doubt, David. Thank you for that. The Ducks on the banks of the Tennessee River. Eric Zier, how do you like that game going tonight?
You know what? I like Tennessee, actually. I think Tennessee is going to be able to step up and play. I like what they did last week. And, if anything else, we want the SEC to win right now coming into the year and play well. And I think Dooley over time is going to get this program in shape.
Scott Howard, does Tennessee stand a chance tonight against Oregon?
Yeah, I think they have a chance. The travel kind of concerns me a little bit for Oregon's sake because SEC teams traditionally play pretty well, on their home field. But I think Oregon's offensive explosion last week might be a little more realistic than Tennessee's, and I think the Ducks might squeeze one out in Knoxville today.
Well, I think Oregon's a little better. I'm for Derek because his mother might be listening.
And his mother celebrated a birthday this week, so happy birthday to Barbara Dooley. And I'm for Derek, too, and, of course, for the SEC, but I'm afraid that Oregon's going to have too much for the Vols. All right, thank you, guys. We have a roundup of games from outside the SEC, top 25 coming up in just a bit, and that was your SEC roundup presented by our good friends at AirTran Airways. Go, there's nothing stopping you. Games from around the top 25, plus Loran will speak to one of the great Georgia and NFL players in history after these words. Georgia Bulldogs Radio Network from ISP.
The Verizon Wireless Tailgate Show continues right now with a check of the Charter Communications Top 25 scoreboard.
David Shumate back inside the ISP Network studios as we get set for Georgia and South Carolina, just about 2.5 hours away from kickoff at Williams-Brice Stadium. Let's take a look at the day. A busy day in the top 25. They're calling it Super Saturday. Number 2, Ohio State, is at home to take on number 12, Miami, a 3:30 kick from Columbus. This is the first meeting between the Buckeyes and the Canes since the controversial finish to the 2003 Fiesta Bowl, where a late flag helped the Buckeyes to their first national title in 32 years. The Canes a chance for redemption, what would be a huge upset on the road. At 7 o'clock tonight, number 4, TCU, is at home to take on Tennessee Tech. Number 5, Texas, has their home opener against Wyoming. It's a 7 o'clock kick tonight in Austin. At 12:30, number 6 Nebraska continues a weak non-conference slate against Idaho. The Cornhuskers will not face a ranked opponent until October 16th when Texas visits Lincoln. The Longhorns are currently the only ranked team on Nebraska's schedule. At 3:30 today, number 9 Iowa and Iowa State from Kinnick Stadium. Senior quarterback Ricky Stanzi looked good for Iowa in their season opener, completing 18 of 23 passes for 229 yards and a score in their 37-7 throttling of Eastern Illinois. A big matchup today in Norman. Number 17 Florida State, number 10 Oklahoma. Here's Florida State head coach Jimbo Fisher.
And don't carry them points over to next week. We have to have that same kind of preparation. I think we got a team that's hungry to go compete. We'll go fight and we'll play hard, and we're going to find out where we're at. And if we have success, how we deal with it. If we don't have as much success we want, how we deal with that coming back against a great BYU team either way. I think it's a great game to have at this stage of where we're at, and we're looking forward to the challenge.
Oklahoma has won 4 straight against the Noles since losing the first meeting between the two, 36-19 in the 1965 Gator Bowl. Again, a 3:30 kick today from Norman. We're getting set for a matchup between ranked teams, number 19 Georgia, number 24 South Carolina, and the Verizon Wireless Tailgate show continues in just a moment along the Georgia Bulldog Radio Network from ISP.
If it's at noon, you get up and there's not a whole lot to distract you before you can get out there because it's like wake up and it's time to go.
There's Fred Munzemeyer, the Georgia fullback, and the early start doesn't bother him. Doesn't bother us either. Lovely day here in Columbia with a nice cloud cover as the sun is coming up behind us at Williams-Brice Stadium. Going to be about 85 degrees today with a 30% chance of precipitation during the game. Today is 9/11, of course, a day that we honor the fallen and also celebrate the American heroes, who there were so many on that day 9 years ago, and we'd always like to make sure that we honor them and tip our caps as well. Time now for Loran to check in with an 18-year NFL Hall of Fame veteran, and let's throw it to Loran Smith.
Fran Tarkenton had a not-so-wonderful afternoon in Columbia, South Carolina in 1959 when he was a junior quarterback at the University of Georgia. We might get into that a little later, or we might try to forget it, as I'm sure you have over the years. But let's talk about quarterbacking. You did not get to play as a freshman. It was against the rules. Now kids can play coming in right out of high school. Are you surprised at how well some of these kids play right off the bat?
Well, not many of them play well right off the bat. It takes them a while. I think, I don't see any reason why they cannot play right off the bat. Many of them come in there the spring before and they get coached up and they know how to play football. Listen, if you're a football player, you're a football player. If you can make plays, you can make plays. 50 years ago, I started a Minnesota Viking game as a 21-year-old rookie against the Bears, and we beat them 37-13. So there you are. And if I could do that against the Chicago Bears, the 21-year-old rookie in the NFL, then these kids could go play as freshmen. If you can play, you can play.
Did you have an opportunity to see Aaron Murray in his debut last week?
I did not.
Georgia?
And I wouldn't judge anything by last week's game about any player because we were playing the Sisters of the Poor. We're playing the B team. We're playing a scrimmage game, and it was great. We won, but it's not the SEC. Today is a good test. We're playing South Carolina, and you're right. Back when we won the SEC championship in '59, we lost there. The only game we lost. They weren't the best team we played. I don't know why it's hard to play there, but it's hard to play there. The good news for Georgia fans, which I am dyed-in-the-wool one, is that we always seem to win there. And David Pollock makes a great play, and something else happens, and we eke out a victory. But it's a tough place to play, and it's a real big test for Aaron Murray to play in an SEC game in his first time that he's played one.
Well, you told me not long ago that when you were playing in your prime in the NFL, the 3-4 defense was a little bit more of a challenge than the other traditional defenses the league was using at that time.
Well, it's because it was new. We played the Dolphins and played them in the Super Bowl. They went to it because they got a defensive lineman hurt because it was brand new. Nobody's seen it. It's been around for 27 years now. You can do a lot, I like the defense because you can blitz from a lot of different ways. You don't have to. It's easier to find linebackers that are quick, big, and can rush the passer that weigh 250, 245 or so than to find 300-pound linemen who can run. So having 4 linebackers on the field, you have more athletes and more speed, and you can, I think, change up your defense more and make it a little more difficult for the offense. I like the defense.
Steve Spurrier, you've had an opportunity to observe him. How well does he adapt to the changing defenses?
Well, Steve Spurrier has been an innovative, great, wonderful coach. And his innovation, though, was back in Florida days, and was when he was a younger man. And you know, he since he left Florida, the Redskins, he struggled there. It didn't. And here at South Carolina, he doesn't have the players he had in Florida. He struggled there. I don't know if he's as innovative today as he was 20 years ago. You know, we all get a little older. Sometimes we get a little stale. I don't know that he's as innovative now as he was then.
What was the toughest challenge for you as a quarterback in the face of a rush?
Listen, there are not many people that can play quarterbacks. Hardest position to play in the world. If you're a quarterback that understands the game, can make plays, you don't see the rush. The rush, you feel it. You don't see it. If you're looking at the rush, you're in bad shape. You look downfield, you know where your receivers are. You make moves in the backfield to get your pass in lane, and you make plays. And a quarterback has to have the utmost confidence in who he is and what he is, because you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to be booed, and your teammates are going to doubt you, your coaches are going to doubt you, and you got to still be able to make plays no matter what. And it takes a guy that's got great intestinal fortitude and unnatural confidence in themselves. And I understand this real freshman, Hudson Mason, has got that.
He certainly had a fine debut, throwing a touchdown pass on his first play. In your great debut against the Chicago Bears, you didn't even do that, did you?
Well, I completed 17 of 21 passes for 237 yards. I threw for 4 touchdowns and ran for 1. And we won 37-13. Not against the Sisters of the Poor. We beat the Chicago Bears.
But you didn't throw a touchdown pass on your first play.
I might have. I can't remember that far long. It's been 50 years ago.
You still remain a fan of college football. What excites you about the game?
SEC is the best football there is. You can't get any better than that. I mean, these kids play hard. They play great. You don't know what's going to happen from week to week. College football, I think, is the best entertainment in the world. And the SEC football is the best of all of college football. I'd rather see college football than pro football.
All right, a great testimony from a great quarterback himself, a member of the College and Professional Football Hall of Fame, Fran Tarkin. The only problem with you is you're never enthusiastic.
Well, but I just want to be in Lawrence Smith's Hall of Fame. If I'm in Lawrence Smith's Hall of Fame, it trumps everything else I've got.
All right, Fran Tarkin, and we go back over to Neil Williamson.
All right, thank you, Lauren. Gosh, that's so funny. Francis is he's such a ball of fire, isn't he? He is something else. For those of you who talk about the toughness that Brett Favre displays every week in the NFL, don't forget that Fran Tarkenton missed 3 games in his first 14 NFL seasons. And in his last season, 18 years, Francis was 40 years old and threw for 217 yards per game with a 60% completion rate at 40 years old. Not so bad himself when he was wearing the purple of the Minnesota Vikings as well. Hey, Georgia fans, G Extra is changing our name to GTV. GTV is the new home for the most online audio-video coverage of your favorite Bulldog sports. GTV brings you live game coverage, plus features and highlights. Log on to georgiadogs.com/all access. With GTV, you're a fan no matter where you live.
We're just outside Sanford Stadium enjoying barbecue from Harry's Pig Shop here at the ISP Tailgate. Lee Epting opened up Harry's Pig Shop about a year ago, and it's the best barbecue in town. We're certainly glad to have him with us today.
All right, thank you, Lauren. A bevy of highlights from last week's romp with Eric Zier's analysis just 2 minutes away. Georgia and South Carolina, we're getting you ready. Verizon Wireless Tailgate Show. This is Georgia Bulldogs football from ISP.
ISP's pregame radio coverage stays connected with AT&T's highlights of the Bulldogs' last game. AT&T, rethink possible.
We're parked on the bench here at Williams-Brice Stadium for the Verizon Wireless Tailgate Show. Eric Zier, Neil Williamson, Lawrence Smith checking out just a little bit. And Z, you have some happy memories of this place?
You know what? I really do. First, I spent several years in my childhood here as my dad was stationed at Fort Jackson and lived in Lexington. So Carolina was actually one of the first schools that I ever really cheered for. And I remember coming to this stadium quite a bit as a kid, and of course, my playing days at Georgia coming here, we had a lot of success.
Won them both, right?
Won both games, and just a lot of good memories from here.
Very good, Eric. All right, rejoining us now for some analysis of last week's plays. And are you ready, Zay?
I am ready, but first let me finish enjoying some of my Gordo's authentic Mexican restaurant-style cheese dip. It is available at your local retailer, and we have it before every game. It really is fantastic. If you haven't tried it, you need to go get some.
It really is good. We have to wait for those breaks when David Shoemate is
That's right.
is giving
That's
scores
exactly right.
so that we can enjoy that Gordo's cheese dip. All right, our Bulldogs cranked things up early when Caleb King showed good second effort last week with 3 minutes remaining in the first quarter.
Murray, the quarterback, under center. Now we bring Aaron White in motion. He slides to a stop. Handoff Caleb King. Looking for running room. Breaks the tackle line of scrimmage. 10, 5. Man dragging his shirt tail. He dragged him into the end zone for the first score of the year. Touchdown, Georgia.
And that was a common theme for Caleb in the first football game of the year. A lot of yards after contact. Ran very physical. Did a good job of using his offhand to keep his balance and make some plays. Really ran hard and ran physical and got the Bulldogs off to a good start.
Leading Louisiana Lafayette 7-zip, Georgia quickly regained possession.
Wood, Dobbs, Washington, and Houston across the front line for Georgia. Here comes Justin from the outside. Pass is thrown to the near side, and a diving interception by the Bulldogs. Brandon Boykin dove right in front of the intended receiver and picked it off with a great rush coming in from the right end.
Georgia's 3-4 defense with the first of 3 forced turnovers on the day. And less than 2 minutes later, young Aaron Murray threw his first college TD pass.
Murray in the shotgun. There's the snap. He will throw it to the near side. Touchdown, Chris Durham. He broke off the route in front of the defender in the left corner and made a nice grab. Chris Durham with his first score in an eternity.
Our Scott Howard with the great play-by-play there. Z, that was quite a catch.
It really was. And I'll tell you what, great poise there by Aaron Murray. Went up, changed the play to a fade route, and had the poise to throw that ball. Actually threw a fade stop, checked to a fade, threw a fade stop to bring Chris Durham back. Great job there. Great catch. Good for Chris Durham, but a great play showing the poise of Aaron Murray.
14-zip soon became 24-0 as Blair Walsh buried a 52-yard field goal, and later Aaron Murray connected with fullback Sean Chappis on a short TD pass. Then, as time was expiring in the first half, our Bulldogs redshirt freshman quarterback gambled and took it to the house.
Takes the snap. He drops back on the 25. He scrambles. The clock is at 4. He's going to run. Murray at the 5. And did he get the pylon? Yeah! Touchdown, Aaron Murray. He got the pylon. They missed the tackle inside the 5. And Murray scrambles for the score as the clock hit 0 to end the half.
Yeah, and it's a good thing Aaron Murray got in the end zone right there. It's one of those plays that the coaches talked about immediately following the game that we'd like to see Aaron Murray's decision-making when he gets out of the pocket improve in a couple of places. That was one of them, but when you make a mistake, it sure is nice to get 6 points out of it.
Yeah, he got an earful from the coaches, that's for sure. Let's leap ahead to the second half, folks. Dogs leading 41-7. True freshman quarterback Hudson Mason came off the bench and wasted little time joining the NCAA record books.
I formation. Dogs are up 41-7. They're going to let Mason pass right off the bat, and he will throw it, and it will be caught, and a touchdown, Logan Gray. First pass of your career, first score for Logan Gray on the receiving end. It's 47-7.
It doesn't get any better than that for Hudson Mason. It's something that he's going to remember forever, and a good job reading the defense. At that time, the Raging Cajuns played a lot of single safety. We had some opportunity outside. Hudson dropped back, threw a skinny post on time. It is pretty as it gets.
Who was your first touchdown pass against?
It was against, you know what? It was the first, I think it was against LSU is who it was against. It was to Paul Etheridge, believe it or not. It's a good thing that we caught it in the end zone because Paul, after every single one of his catches, he got negative yards after the catch. So we had to get it into the end zone for 6 points.
Still one of your best friends, I gather.
He is.
Yes, he is. No doubt about it. Georgia's final touchdown came on its second of 3 interceptions.
Shotgun snap, roll to the near side. Gaucher on the roll. Throws it, picked off. Jakar Hamilton at the 10. Angles at the 5. In the end zone. Touchdown, Jakar Hamilton. Interception, pick 6.
Pardon me. That wrapped up the scoring for UGA in a 55-7 blowout win over Louisiana Lafayette. Scott Howard will have play-by-play today from South Carolina for you as the Dogs take on the Gamecocks just after noon. Our SEC opener is coming up But right around the corner is Loran's flashback with the hero of the 2002 victory over the Gamecocks. A 3-time Georgia All-American joins us next on the Verizon Wireless Tailgate Show. This is Bulldogs football from ISP.
Feel the tradition. Soak in the history. And hear the passion in today's Bulldog Flashback. Once again, here's Neil Hondo Williamson.
South Carolina with 2 extra days to prepare because they played on the Thursday prior to the big opening Saturday last week. We'll talk to our experts about those 2 extra days in just a bit. And we'll also have Coach Mark Richt coming up with Scott Howard not too long. So stay with us here on the Verizon Wireless Tailgate Show. We have a great cloud cover here in Columbia. Man, if it stays like this with a cool little breeze, this may be the coolest game we'll have played over here in my memory. I'm an old man, so I remember quite a few of them. Time to have our flashback now with Loran Smith. And Loran's got a terrific Bulldog who had one heck of a game here in 2002. Loran?
One of the greatest plays in Georgia history, certainly, and I think you can build a case for this position. The most unbelievable defensive play came September the 14th, 2002, Williams-Brice Stadium in Columbia, South Carolina. We still, a lot of us, Davey Pollock, don't remember what happened. All we know is the quarterback, Corey Jenkins, is in his throwing motion, and you wind up with the ball lying in the end zone. How'd you pull off that great play? And recall it with us. What took place?
I don't know, Lauren. I don't know how it happened either. I mean, it was crazy. It was nuts because I was coming into a Corey and just trying to bat the ball down. You know, he was throwing it, and I was trying to deflect it. And I ended up getting to his arm before it really got moving forward too much. And I hit the ball and hit the arm, and the ball started trickling down his back as I was coming around him. And as I was coming around him, I just reached down and grabbed the football. But I'll never forget the formation and the tendencies that went into it. It was a down and distance of 3rd and long. They were in a formation that we had studied a lot, and we knew it was a high percentage of rollout pass. And so it was good because as soon as they started to roll out, I kind of knew it was coming, and then just caught it. And I'm just glad I caught it in the end zone, Lauren, because I didn't have to run anywhere. It was already a touchdown.
Well, also, I'm sure you feel the same way. I'm glad that the referee, Steve Shaw, was in a position to see what happened and made the call. I know you're happy about that as well.
He was in the perfect position. He saw it the whole time. It was a great call by the ref. He was in the right spot because it very easily could have been an incomplete pass. They could have said that because he couldn't really see what was going on. But, you know, if you look at the replay, it was definitely a catch. I don't know how I caught it, but it was a catch.
How many calls did you get after the game? How many emails did you get?
You know, I remember checking my student email, Lauren, before I left. And I had a couple emails, and then I remember coming back like that next Monday and checking my email, and I had just hundreds of emails, and I was like, "Whoa, this is weird." So it was just all of a sudden, and from that point on, really, I think Georgia fans, you know, always noticed me a little bit more, recognized me a little bit more. Most of the time when I went out with David Green, it was like, "Who's your little friend over here?" And now it's started to become who's your roommate and who's that guy.
Well, it was a wonderful day for Georgia. Georgia winning the game 13-7, didn't score an offensive touchdown. But after the game, you were the guest on the locker room show, and we couldn't do the show for all your teammates coming by pounding you on the back. Was that one of the greatest moments of your career? I'm sure it's one of the greatest, but how did it stand up with your list of thrills as you went through your career at Georgia?
It was definitely up there. It's the most memorable play. Anytime I ever see anybody, it's always, man, that South Carolina play was so awesome. So, I mean, it's definitely something that I'm identified with, and I'm okay with that. Shoot, we ended up winning, like you said, we didn't score an offensive touchdown, and we needed that. We needed those 7 points, and we ended up winning, so that was the most important part. But remember, Lauren, that came down to a pitch late in the game where they ran the option our way at 4th down and ended up stopping them and making them fumble the ball a little bit. But it was a good win, and I tell you what, coming into this week, I think every Georgia fan and every South Carolina fan knows it doesn't matter who's ranked where. This game is always a really, really good game.
You're so right, and we thank you, Davey Pollock, who now is a budding television star. You were a star on the field, now you're a star in the booth. Thanks for joining us, and we'll go back over to Neil Williamson.
All right, thank you, Loran. Always great to hear from Davey Pollock, no doubt about it. Hey, go to GeorgiaDogs.com and register to win the Ackerman Security Systems Georgia Bulldog VIP of the game. That includes a visit to the broadcast booth where you'll get to meet Scott Howard and Eric Zier, an autographed football, and much more. Ackerman Security Systems Georgia Bulldog VIP of the game. Go to GeorgiaDogs.com. Scott Howard and Mark Rick coming up soon, and waiting on deck, it's UGA's new athletics director, Greg McGarity, on the Georgia Bulldog Radio Network from ISP.
The Verizon Wireless Tailgate Show continues with this Bulldog Point of Pride. Presented by Plumbers, Pipe Fitters, and Technicians, Local Union 72. We believe in our people. For the 411 on the University of Georgia, here's Steve Bell.
Hey, Bulldog fans, the University of Georgia has been selected for the Princeton Review's 2011 Green Rating Honor Roll. The review evaluated 703 schools on their environmentally related policies, practices, and academic offerings. From restoring water, land, and air to conserving energy and promoting quality of life. UGA students, faculty, and staff are actively engaged on campus, in the community, and around the globe. And that's another Bulldog Point of Pride.
First of all, Greg, what was it like at kickoff for your first game? It's always been your team, but really your team as the athletics director.
Well, Charlie, I think pregame it was the alma mater when the band actually played the alma mater. That's when it kind of hit home because it just hadn't heard that in a long, long time, especially in Sanford Stadium. Even when Florida played here in 94, 95, whatever that year was, you're not focusing on that part of it at that time. So that's kind of when it hit home.
What's the first, actually you got in here before September 1 and you jumped in and got your feet wet real quick. What's it been like since you planted yourself here in Athens, just a very short time?
Well, I think what has really helped us is just the familiarity with the surroundings, knowing how to get from point A to point B, knowing who to call for counsel, knowing from the community standpoint if you need assistance there, knowing who to call. So just, I guess, a warm feeling of knowing that you're part of a community again that you left 2 decades ago. And everybody's really been very warm. They've been it's been great to renew friendships and kind of reconnect with people after 18 years.
Everything's going to be a first with you now as the athletics director. First SEC game at a big one in Columbia today.
Well, we all know what type of atmosphere they have in Columbia, and their fans are fantastic. They have been with them through thick and thin. Now they're having some success. I know the old ball coach will have the guys ready to play, and he's obviously done a great job there. So, it'll be interesting. It's always the first SEC road game is a true test. The energy would be different, I think, than if you played a non-conference game on the road. It's different. It's conference ball. It's where you've got two teams that are pretty evenly matched, and usually those games come down to who makes the fewest mistakes. It's going to win the game.
You've seen a lot of big games, a whole lot of big games. And you hate to pinpoint one game as being extremely big. They're all big. This is big, but there will be bigger ones down the line.
No question.
It's too early, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's a long season. It's a mile run. It's not a sprint.
Yep.
And I think what you have to keep in perspective, we've got a freshman quarterback, and we all know that freshman quarterbacks have a tendency to handle things certain ways, and you just don't know until you turn the lights on and you kick the ball off. But every opponent is important. South Carolina is just as important as any other team on our schedule, just like Florida is just as important as Vanderbilt, just as important as Mississippi State. They're all important. At the end of the day, you have wins and losses, and a lot of times it's not who you defeated or who you lost to, is how many did you have. So the message that I want to be sure to convey to all our coaches and our fans, every game's equally important. And if we keep that attitude, I think we're going to overcome a lot of things we've had trouble dealing with in the past.
Greg, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Charlie.
Our weekly visit with Georgia Athletics Director Greg McGarity is powered by Toyota. Moving forward. Up next, we'll revisit a great moment in Georgia football history as Supercuts presents Munson's Great Calls. This is Georgia football from ISP.
Dogs on the road at South Carolina today. That kicks off a stretch of 3 road games over the next 4 weeks for Georgia. Let's pause for station identification. This is Georgia football from ISP. Hondo, Zaire, and Loran down on the field. It's Scott Howard and Charles Young's up in the booth, and David Shoemate, our producer engineer, back in the Bulldog studios. And Loran has another guest. Loran.
Oh, it's so exciting to talk to Jack Crow of Jacksonville State. Jacksonville, Alabama, just 38 miles from Cedartown, Georgia. Your team, the Gamecocks, interestingly, Jack, we're down 31-10 at the half, rallied to win 49-48 in 2 overtimes. What an exciting day. Has it been an exciting week for you? Have you been able to settle down and focus on your next game?
Well, I think we've done a pretty good job of getting our feet back on the ground. Of course, you won't know till you see whether you've got that emotional full tank you need to fight for 4 quarters. But just reading what I read every week, it looks like we have. But there's obviously something that carries forward from winning a game like that, but there's some dangers, and we've made our players very aware. We'll just see if we got the maturity to handle it.
Well, you're a real coaching veteran, Jack. You've been around a long time. Was this your greatest moment as a coach?
I have been asked that, Lawrence, so I guess I've fashioned an answer for this. Won a national championship here. It was Division II, but in 1992, when you do something like that, it has some finality to it. It just, it lasts longer. But as a head coach, I've certainly not experienced anything like that as a head coach. But, I've had some of the wins at Auburn, Clemson, and at Arkansas were certainly comparable in terms of winning games.
Well, you have 2 quarterbacks, and Marquise Ivory played for Conrad Nix at Warner Robins. Cody Blanchard turned down a $500,000 bonus from the Orioles, so you are getting good success out of playing 2 quarterbacks. What's your philosophy about that?
Well, we've always tried to have 2 from the standpoint of just having the other one ready and involved, and for the continuity of the program and for the continuity of the season. Never have to. And I've done something ever since I've been here, and that's put the backup quarterback in the 3rd series of every game. Marquez, for example, played in the 2 years he was here behind Ryan Perilou, who was certainly a great talent. But Marquez was part of every game. I think maybe one Ryan went the whole way. So we've always done it, but there is a different factor with Cody Blanchard because Cody is an equal to any playmaker I've ever been on the field with. I mean, I'm not going to understate this young man. I've known him since he was 10, and thank goodness his mama sent him to play for Jacksonville State. But if anybody wants to see a rare playmaker, he's rare. He's special.
Mike Bobo, after finishing as a graduate assistant at Georgia, coached for you before returning to Georgia. Did you get a call from Mike this week?
He and our offensive coordinator, Ronnie Ludson, who was a receiver coach when he was quarterback coach here, they stay in touch really well, and I get messages from Mike through Ronnie all the time. Ronnie scored 6, as our offensive coordinator, scored the last 6 times we got the ball against Ole Miss. And, Lauren, let me say this. I know that maybe some Ole Miss people sprinkled around out there. We call them in a real flux on offense and sort of took advantage of them. But they're going to be a good football team when they get Mazzoli integrated. And so, but yeah, Mike always felt like Mike was keeping up. And we certainly always keeping up with him. And Stacy Searles and Rodney Gardner were players when I coached at Auburn. So, and Mark Richt and I have a relationship. offered Mark Richt the offensive coordinator job at Arkansas. First person I talked to. So I got a history with a lot of them Bulldogs. I have great respect for them.
Well, Jack, we thank you for joining us now, and if you will hand over the phone to your athletic director, Oval James, who arranged this interview. Oval, we appreciate that. You came out of retirement to help Jack build a stadium there at Jacksonville State. What's it been like this week? Ticket sales brisk?
Yeah, I tell you what, Loran, it's been probably as busy a week as we've ever had at Jacksonville State. Certainly in the 2 years I've been back here with Jack and, of course, building the stadium. The outpouring of people and people buying tickets, the interest, the media interest, it's just really almost overwhelming.
Well, we congratulate you and Jack. That's a tremendous victory, and I know your phone was ringing. It took me forever to get in touch with you, but I know how big it is on your campus, and we're delighted for your success, and we look forward to seeing you whenever you can come our way. Oval James, the athletic director at Jacksonville State, and preceded by Jack Crow, the coach. Neil, that's a really colossal feel-good story, isn't it?
Oh, it's phenomenal, phenomenal. I'm not sure if it shocked the nation, but it certainly shocked the conference. And congratulations to the Jacksonville State program for that, and, of course, to Coach Crow. It's time now for Munson's Greatest Calls, presented by Supercuts. Call 1-800-SUPERCUTS or visit supercuts.com to find the location near you. Let's crank it up from 8 years ago and hear what Larry had to say right here in Columbia, South Carolina.
Carolina going to try and beat us in the last play of the ball game right here. Fourth down. And they spread receivers all over the field, which means a lot of pressure on those front four and those two linebackers. Shotgun. He takes it. He laterals. They fumble it. And everybody dives for the ball, and I think we've got the ball. South Carolina fumble. They run a little toss sweep out. Thomas Davis recovered. The strong safety recovered. South Carolina. They pitched it to Big Pinnock.
What a great win for the Bulldogs back in 2002. And joining us now is the man who was the analyst at the time and our play-by-play voice of the Dogs, Scott Howard. Do you remember from that play?
I remember being a little bit shocked that they actually pitched the ball in that situation. You pitch it all day long during the game, but when it comes down to that point, I don't know. It seems like it was kind of a head scratcher that you would risk, moving the ball via that route. But it was fourth down, and Georgia had just survived that day. I think there was a lightning delay that game.
Yeah.
The big Pollock play on the other end of the field in the end zone. That happened that game. I mean, it was it was one of those magical days for the Bulldogs, and it just really worked out in our favor there in the final 12 seconds when they coughed it up. Pinnock had a brutal day, though. He had a rough day. We bottled him up all day. He only had 27 yards on like 11 or 12 carries, and then he fumbles the potential game-winning touchdown run.
Yeah, for all the times that fans and we will look back and say, oh, if not for that play or for that game, we could have contended for a championship or played in a championship. That's one that actually set it up so that we did win a championship.
Indeed, yep.
All right. Thank you, Scott Howard. All right, the team is here. The Georgia Bulldogs are on the field. They're getting loose. I see Aaron Murray over there throwing right now. He's actually taking snaps with Ben Jones, and Hudson Mason and Eric Zier are having fun throwing with each other and a few of the other guys. So stay with us because the voice of the Dogs, Scott Howard, returns with Coach Mark Richt to discuss today's game. That's less than 10 minutes away, so don't you go away. You're tuned to Georgia football from ISP.
David Shumate back inside the ISP Network studios. While we have a moment, let's check the Charter on-demand scoreboard. Get the fastest internet speeds in the area with Charter's ultra-fast Ultra 60. Call 888-GET-CHARTER or go to charter.com/ultra for more information. Let's set the table for the day in the SEC. Some marquee matchups we'll be watching a little bit later this evening at 7 o'clock. Number 1, Alabama. Number 18, Penn State. Penn State is 4-8 against top-ranked teams under Joe Paterno, but they haven't toppled the nation's top team in nearly 2 decades. At 7 o'clock, number 7, Oregon, a test at Tennessee. This is the first meeting ever between the two the Vols and the Ducks again tonight at Neyland Stadium. Number 8, Florida is at home. They get South Florida, a 12-21 kick from Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. Skip Holtz's tenure got off to a solid start last week for South Florida with a 59-14 thumping of FCS opponent Stony Brook. Competition, of course, gets much better today against the Gators. And conference play underway in Nashville tonight. Number 19, LSU and Vanderbilt, a 7 o'clock tip. Though LSU beat a depleted UNC squad in their opener 30-24, they looked sloppy doing it, committing 5 turnovers and going without a point in the second half after leading 30-10 at halftime. Neil, they'll have to do much better this week against a Vanderbilt squad that really pushed Northwestern last week.
Yeah, we'll see what Vanderbilt has for them today, that's for sure, David. Thank you very much, David Shoemate at our Bulldog Studios. And Bulldog fans, remember to submit your favorite tailgate photo. You could win a $100 gift certificate to Publix and have your photo on the video board of a UGA game. Just email your photo to ugaphotos@gmail.com or go to georgiadogs.com. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. And Bulldog fans, georgiadogs.com is your first and best source for Bulldogs news, scores, highlights, interviews, and behind-the-scenes video. You can also buy authentic Dogs gear in the G-Shop or bid against other Bulldog fans in our exclusive online auctions. Visit georgiadogs.com today. Well, we mentioned that the team is here on the field. Scott Howard will sit down with Coach Mark Richt in 120 seconds to get the scoop on today's Georgia-South Carolina game from Columbia.
Hi, Bulldogs. My name's Lindsay Tant. I'm a senior from Marietta, Georgia, majoring in athletic training.
Hi, Bulldogs. My name is Katie Smith. I'm a senior from Cochran, Georgia, majoring in exercise and sports science with an emphasis in athletic training.
The Verizon Wireless Tailgate Show will continue after these messages.
On the Georgia Bulldogs Radio Network from ISP.
I'll admit it proudly, I am a Gator hater.
The Verizon Wireless Tailgate Show continues with this Bulldog Point of Pride. Presented by Plumbers, Pipe Fitters, and Technicians Local Union 72. We believe in our people. For the 411 on the University of Georgia, here's Steve Bell.
Hey, Bulldog fans, congratulations to Ruth Bittendorf, Assistant Vice President for Academic Affairs and Director of the University of Georgia Gwinnett Campus. Ruth has been named Outstanding Adult Educator in Georgia by the Georgia Adult Education Association. As director of the Gwinnett campus, Ruth is responsible for day-to-day coordination of graduate and continuing education programs offered at the facility located in Lawrenceville. And that's another Bulldog Point of Pride.
All right, thank you, Steve Bell. I'm standing right out here on the 40-yard line at Williams-Brice Stadium. We have great cloud cover and a noon kick today. Be happy to see the Dogs go against South Carolina in the SEC opener. And let's throw it now to Scott Howard, who's with Coach Rick. Scott.
It's time to take a look at today's opponent with Bulldogs head coach Mark Richt, brought to you by AirTran Airways, offering great low fares to over 60 cities. Scott Howard back with Coach Richt as we take a look at the South Carolina Gamecocks today. And, Coach, certainly in your career, you've gone up against Steve Spurrier on the other sideline quite often. You're very familiar with his work and what he likes to do. Tell us exactly what it is he likes to do as a coach.
There's a lot of things that he kind of hangs his hat on. He loves to. He will run the ball, and he likes a good play action pass. That's for sure. His route concepts. He loves a curl flat type of play. He loves what people call a smash or a China route, which is the outside receiver running a hitch and a flag route by the inside receiver. And there's certain things he likes, in the red zone area. He loves, lately with these big physical receivers, they throw a lot of those quick screens out there and let the big receivers block for backs or little receivers, So there's a lot of things like that he likes. Defensively, of course, Coach Elvis is pretty much handling that part of that side of the ball for him, and he's been an outstanding coach for years also.
Staying with the offense for just a second, is it a situation where you have to prepare for multiple quarterbacks, or do you just go in thinking Garcia is going to be the main guy?
Well, you prepare for whoever the quarterback is, really, because I don't see a huge style difference between these two guys. I don't think when one guy's in, they're going to do this, and when another guy's in, they're going to do that. I think Coach Spurrier is going to do what they do. That quarterback position is going to be played pretty much the same by whoever is in there. So I don't think that'll change for us much. Now, they have
taken Stephen Gilmore and put him in there in that wild dog kind of formation and allowed him to play quarterback, but mostly he's there to run the football.
Tell us a little bit about the Gamecock running game with the new kid in there.
I'll tell you what, Marcus Lattimore is a real deal guy. We've had a lot of contact with him over the last couple of years. We tried to recruit him, or we did recruit him and try to get him to come to Georgia, but he chose South Carolina and his home state. But he's a very outstanding back, very outstanding person. Came from a tremendous program at Burns High School and knows how to win, knows how to play the game, and loves to play the game.
You touched on the defense, and Ellis Johnson as a defensive coordinator. They've had a reputation for being very solid on that side of the ball for many years now. With Georgia being without A.J. Green today, do you anticipate them changing the way they play defense, especially in the secondary?
Well, I would think there'll be some kind of changes. I just don't know what they were going to do to begin with. But, the fact that they found out early enough in the week to make some changes, I would think that if they were going to make a change based on a plan around AJ, they would have time to do that. But as you watch their film, they're very good at what they do. So it's not like they have a scheme of the week. They pretty much believe in what they do. They're mostly a 4-3 team that just loves to play physical, loves to play a lot of quarters coverage, and at times we'll blitz and play the zero coverage or true man-to-man coverage. They do that a good bit. So I don't think they're going to change that much. And, the key for them is just to have those athletes who can run and hit and play within the system.
They don't have Eric Norwood on the team any longer. Do they have a Norwood-type guy that you've seen on video that stands out?
Well, Cliff Matthews, number 83, is a kid that they pretty much have plugged into where Norwood was in the past and in a lot of their situations. And Cliff is a 6'4", 268-pound senior. He's a tremendous athlete. He's really a fine kid. We recruited him too, and I thought we had a good shot at him. But again, he stayed in his home state. But just a great kid, a great athlete, going to cause problems as a pass rusher off the edge, and then when they do get into a 3-down type of a look, he becomes a stand-up linebacker and really can blitz in any gap across the board. I think that they did a lot with Norwood in the past.
Do you find that Georgia has a lot of recruiting battles with South Carolina? They come in here a lot, get a lot of players. We go over there a lot, get a lot of players.
There's a good many of that. It's not like every single guy on their roster we got into battle with, but those two in particular, we got into the recruiting war with them. But again, I think it's always tougher to take a kid out of his home state, and these guys stay true to where they were from, and that's what I kind of hope the kids in the state of Georgia will do.
All right, Georgia and South Carolina coming up in just a little while. And also, we'll have more with Coach Mark Richt as we get the inside skinny on the Bulldogs. And, Coach, we'll talk with you in just a little bit.
Very good.
We'll have more with Coach Richt coming up. Stay tuned. The Verizon Wireless Tailgate Show continues in 2 minutes. This is the Georgia Bulldog Radio Network from ISP.
The Verizon Wireless Tailgate Show continues from Williams-Brice Stadium in Columbia, South Carolina. Verizon, your signal reigns on America's largest and most reliable wireless network. Let's toss it over to Loran Smith, who's standing on the 46-yard line. Loran has a great guest.
Thank you, Neil. Our guest is Todd Grantham, a familiar name now. And, Todd, last week, Georgia dominated Louisiana Lafayette, but gave up a touchdown pass, and you were quite upset. And I tried to explain to people, you weren't so upset that you gave up a touchdown, but it was a mental mistake. How important is it not to make mental mistakes?
Well, first of all, it's a 60-minute game, and you got to play all 60 minutes. And there are situations that come up in the game, and you got to work to finish those situations. And if you don't execute or don't have the right mindset, sometimes you can give up those explosive plays, which can let a team back in the game. So you address it and you move on, and that's what we did.
And when you move on, you're saying, in essence, there are going to be mistakes. Just let's make sure they're not mental mistakes.
Well, there's going to be mistakes during the game. There's no such thing as a perfect game. But what you got to do is you got to learn from those mistakes, understand they can't happen again, and then you move on and play the next situation. You just play the next play.
In the locker room at the half, you told the defense what was going on, what they needed to do, and you gave them a pretty strong command as you walked out. I'm expecting you to get out there and get after their anatomy. If you don't, I'm going to get after yours. What you're trying to do is keep their attention 60 minutes.
Well, in that game, I mean, we were going to win that game. And the thing I was more interested in is our focus and our intensity for 60 minutes. And you have to play 60 minutes to win in the SEC. And I just wanted to make sure they understood this is a 60-minute game, and we need to play for 60 minutes. And I was very proud of the way they came out and performed in the second half.
Where this week was your emphasis? What did you work on most for the defense?
Well, I think you got to be balanced because they are going to be balanced. You got to stop the run, and then you got to do a good job in the passing game with the ball still down the field, vertical routes, as well as catch and run type plays to the receivers in the backs, meaning screens and those kind of things. And in that aspect, you got to do a good job of tackling. So really, I mean, that's the major emphasis is stopping the run and then not allowing the explosive plays in the passing game, whether it's a deep ball down the field or it's an easy throw to a receiver or a back.
Now, I had a guy that I thought was a pretty seasoned fan say, I thought we were running the 3-4. I saw a 7-man line at times. Have you got a tip on how the fans can appreciate the 3-4 alignment?
Well, we're a 3-4, but we're multiple, meaning that we can be in any kind of front, any kind of formation, based upon what we want to do. But we're a 3-4 structure, and we can be in even fronts, which looks like a 4-3 sometimes, or we can be in an odd front, which looks like a 3-4, obviously. So even though we're a 3-4, we're going to be multiple in our looks and our fronts based upon what we need to do in the game.
This is the first time in the college ranks that you've played Steve Spurrier, who has a great offensive mind reputation. But you're familiar with him. You played the Redskins when he was coaching there, and you were at Houston. Do you feel like you've got a little feel for what he likes to do on offense, his tendencies?
Well, I think, first of all, he's a guy that's going to call plays, and he gets a feel for the game. So you just got to be balanced in what you're doing. You just got to execute the call. And if you execute the call, you'll be fine in that aspect. Obviously, you got to stop the run. And if you stop the run and make them one-dimensional, it makes it a little bit easier to do things from that aspect. So basically, we just got to play solid, sound football. And whatever your job is on each play, if you do it, we're going to be fine.
The defensive backs are being challenged. They are being challenged whenever they play, especially in the SEC. Big receivers, though, at South Carolina. How tough is the challenge for the defensive backs this week?
Well, anytime you face the quality receivers we want to face today, it's going to be a challenge for us. I feel like we had a good week of practice in the back end. And what you have to do is you have to challenge those guys. You got to be ready to challenge them. And when the ball's thrown, it's an opportunity for us to make a play as well as them.
How good is the quarterback, South Carolina's quarterback?
Well, he played dynamite last week. He had no interceptions. He made great decisions. He managed the game well. And when he plays like that, I mean, they're going to be hard to beat. And if he continues like that, they're going to be a team in the SEC East.
All right. Thank you, Todd Grantham, a man of great fire and great enthusiasm, Neil. He's a lot of fun to be around.
He is a lot of fun to be around. That's right, Lauren. Thank you. And thanks to Coach Grantham. You know, Lauren, I've missed one game in our 18 years together here on the sidelines, and that was 17 years ago today. And it was for good reason, when my little girl, Lily, was born.
Oh, yes. That's a memorable time in your life, so it's worth missing a game for your daughter's birth.
Certainly was, and I'd like to extend my my love and happy birthday wishes to my 17-year-old Lily today. Okay, fans, stop by any of the 45 Golden Pantry food stores in Bulldog Country to pick up your tailgate supplies, including delicious Oscar Mayer hot dogs. Trust your local Golden Pantry food store for value and service. Eric Zier is in the hole, ready to talk about the Dogs' offense and its challenges today in just about an hour and a half against South Carolina. Thanks for listening. This is Bulldogs football from ISP.
What's your favorite Georgia player doing away from the game of football? Marathon Petroleum takes us off the field with the Bulldogs. Marathon, fueling the American spirit.
Fred, a great start to the season. You played a very good ball game. Your senior year, the pride of Norcross, and a finance major. Doesn't get much better than this, does it?
It doesn't. I was really excited about the game and, the honor to go out there and be a captain and stuff. And, I hope I made my hometown proud.
You know you did. Let's talk about academics before we get more into football. A finance major, a very heady major, I would think. What do you plan on doing after Georgia?
Well, there's still the hope of being able to play at the next level. So I'm sure the next semester of time after this will be spent trying to train for that. But after that, I'm not sure. My personal goal has always been to own my own business. But, I'm still not quite sure what I want to do. I guess I'm just like most people, just trying to figure out the next step.
You played some tailback last Saturday. How'd you feel about that?
I felt good. It was fun, and I've just been trying to learn another position, just to find new ways to get on the field and just maximize the time that I'm out there. But it definitely felt good for the hard work to pay off and to get out there and get an opportunity.
What's the biggest difference at this point from last year at this point, other than a win?
I really just think the feeling that this team has. We're just an extremely close group of guys, and we're all very competitive and hardworking, and I think that we've got this great drive just to go out and really do everything we can to ensure that we have just a great season this year.
Fred Munson-Meyer, Pride of Norcross, all the best.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Charlie Mack. Great to have him here. Eric Zier is standing by, and he's ready to go with us. In just a minute, we'll take you through the offense for Georgia today against South Carolina.
Hi, my name is Catherine Stower. I'm a senior from Cumming, Georgia, majoring in exercise, sports science, and athletic training.
Hi, my name is Mary Catherine. I'm a junior from Columbus, Georgia, majoring in athletic training.
The Verizon Wireless Tailgate show will be continuing after these messages
on the Georgia Bulldog Radio Network from ISP.
Time now for some offensive chalk talk with Eric Zier as we get you ready for Georgia and South Carolina. Neil Hondo Williamson sitting down here on the 42-yard line along with Z.
Even though last year I was redshirted, I was still able to travel to all the away games. They had me travel and dress out, so I got to experience the whole crowd noise, how we deal with it, how we signal things, how we do work the huddle.
Aaron Murray there, and he's going to face a wall of sound just about every time he gets under center here in Columbia. Will the fact that he has dressed and traveled to noisy venues like Tennessee and Jacksonville last year give him any real experience?
Yeah, it absolutely does. Anytime that you just acclimate yourself to the surroundings, you're going to be better off for it. Now, it's not going to give him that experience that he's going to have today where he's actually out on the field and he's the one executing with all of the crowd noise. But that experience from the past is going to play huge dividends. I'll tell you the other thing that's going to help, too, is the fact that we've got a noon kickoff. It's not an 8 p.m. kickoff. This crowd is historically one of the loudest and noisiest in the country. Anywhere that you're going to go play, kicking off at noon is going to be of a benefit. We still need to get off to a fast start today, though.
Murray looked smooth last week. How would you grade his passing?
I'll tell you, I was very, very impressed. He's got great arm strength, a very quick release, good decision-making. Outside of one or two plays, he played as well as I could have hoped for and anticipated. The one play that really stands out is the ball that he tried to throw away, that he was trying to throw through the back of the end zone. You just need to throw that one out to the sidelines and get it out of bounds and live to fight another down. Outside of that, threw the ball exceptionally well.
On several occasions last week, Aaron Murray looked like one of our earlier guests on the program, scrambling Fran Tarkenton.
Try to make a move, maybe duck your shoulder a little bit or dive or something like that to get a first down. But just being aware of the situation, being aware of where the sideline is, how big the guy is about to hit me, and try to get down and save my body.
That's Aaron Murray, and with our lack of depth at quarterback, should Coach Rick give Aaron the leeway to scramble a lot?
I'm sure he would like Aaron to sit back in the pocket and never scramble and get the ball out on time. Unfortunately, that's not when scrambling happens. If there are breakdowns in the line of scrimmage and you're forced to get out of the pocket, that's when that happens. So there's not a whole lot you can do about that piece of it. Where he can be coached up and where there is some coaching and improvement that can be made is once he gets out of the pocket, what are his decisions then? Is he getting out of bounds, or is he going downfield trying to get that extra yard and taking hits unnecessarily? That's where we've got to be careful, not whether or not he's scrambling out of the pocket or not.
Georgia's offensive line didn't blow me away last week, and apparently I wasn't the only one.
The first game you're a little rusty because
because you're not going against your same guys you've been going against all camp because you got the feel against them. So we're going to have to get a little better on different. I know Cordy's been sick, I've been out, and so just getting that feel back with everybody.
That's Georgia center Ben Jones. Can we expect a better push from the O-line today?
Yeah, I think we can, and I think we're going to need it today to win today. We have to be dominant, running the football as much as we can. But I'm not one to beat up our offensive line as much as we are right now, or with that kind of a critical eye. We didn't allow any sacks last week. We did run the ball pretty well. I thought our offensive line played okay, not up to their potential, which I know is where they want to get. But all things considered, to start the season, did a pretty good job.
Oh, yeah. I thought they played okay, too.
Sure.
But not great. And Eric Zier, where does Washaun Ely's return, what does it mean to Georgia today?
It means a great deal. I think if you just go back to the end of last season when we had Washaun and Caleb in there running the football, how effective we were running the football with that 1-2 punch, getting him in the leg or into the game where you can always have a fresh set of legs out there playing. He's a dynamic runner with an awful lot of ability, along with Caleb, along with Carlton Thomas from what we saw last week. With those three running backs, we're going to be able to attack defenses with a fresh set of legs throughout the entire game and hopefully throughout the entire season.
All right, there you have it. Offensive expertise from one of the greatest in SEC annals. We're minutes away from talking defense with three-time SEC champion DJ Jones, plus kickoff today just after noon. It's the conference opener in Columbia, Georgia versus South Carolina. This is Georgia football from ISP.
Dogs fans, join us every Sunday from 10 until noon live from Hilltop Grill as hosts Jeff Dantzler and Kevin Butler break down all the action from today's game.
Toyota is the #1 vehicle brand in America, according to MotorIntelligence.com. Come on down to your local Toyota dealer for deals that'll make you feel like an MVP. Toyota, moving forward. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Williams-Brice Stadium, where today at noon, Georgia and South Carolina will kick things off. And Neil Williamson, Eric Zier here on the field. And Eric, I got a couple of minutes here to catch up with you, which is just great because there's always more stuff to talk to you about in a game like today's. How much can we expect to see of Trenton Sturdivant today? Apparently he had the bug last week. What do you think?
Yeah, hopefully we get a chance to see quite a bit of him. After the past couple of years, there's been so much lost time for him with the injuries and, nicks and knacks and getting hurt, not being able to go. Hopefully we can get him onto the field and see much more out of him because he is an excellent football player with so much potential. It'd be good to see him out here as much as he can get out here.
In your blog earlier this week at GeorgiaDogs.com, I thought it was great. And one of the things that you brought up about Aaron Murray was that feeling of, can I play at this level? Am I really going to be able to do it? Which you don't know until you play.
Yeah, one of the big question marks that you always have anytime you make a big jump, whether it be from high school into college, whether it's college to the pros, is, what can I really do it? I know I've had some people think that I can go do it, but can I make plays against this level of competition? And last week was a big step for Aaron in the fact that he was able to get on the field, make a lot of plays, look very poised and aggressive in the way he played the game. Such a big step just for his own confidence. And this week is going to be another big one. Can I play against an SEC opponent? Can I play on the road? If he can get through today, his level of confidence is going to continue to soar.
Your first start on the road in the SEC was at Mississippi.
It was against Ole Miss. That's right.
In Oxford, a 37-17 win. What do you remember about that era?
A little different for me there because I'd been in a couple of big games. I was splitting time with Greg Talley and finally got the start. So, my preparation didn't change. My mindset didn't change because I knew I was going in. But it's an exciting time for the first time that you go on the road. I kind of equated back into when we played Alabama. It was the first road trip, first time I'd stayed in a hotel with a team like that. All of those things are unique experiences that you can get caught up in that wear off in time where you can stay really focused in on the game. And I'm sure Aaron's got some of those feelings today, but the fact that he traveled with the team last year helps in those categories.
Sure does. All right, thank you, Eric Zier. Eric will rejoin us in minutes. We'll go through today's game plan against South Carolina. Also, check out the Georgia defense as well. David Shoemate is standing by in the Bulldog Studios to bring you up to date on some of the big games around the nation today. We are getting ready for the Dogs and the Gamecocks just 73 minutes away. Verizon Wireless, your signal reigns on America's largest and most reliable wireless network. This is the Verizon Wireless Tailgate Show. We'll be back in 2 minutes on the Georgia Bulldogs Radio Network from ISP.
David Shumate back inside the ISP Network studios as we get set for Georgia and South Carolina conference play, opening up in just about an hour from Williams-Brice Stadium. Let's check the Charter on-demand scoreboard. Get the fastest internet speeds in the area with Charter's Ultra Fast Ultra 60. Call 888-GET-CHARTER or go to charter.com/ultra for more information. When we talk about conference play in the SEC, there's also some intriguing non-conference games across the country. Number 2, Ohio State. Number 12, Miami, a 3:30 kick from Columbus today. The Canes are just beginning a brutal road stretch that will see them visit Pittsburgh and Clemson before their next home game. Again, 2 more brutal road games for Miami. We'll also be watching in Norman today as number 17 Florida State is on the road to take on number 10 Oklahoma, a 3:30 kickoff from Oklahoma Memorial Stadium. Oklahoma looks shaky in their season-opening win against Utah State, needing a late interception to seal a 31-24 win, but gave up 424 yards of offense, including 341 through the air. Christian Ponder and Florida State will certainly be looking to take advantage of that today. And back home in the SEC, number 1 Alabama, number 18 Penn State, a 7 o'clock kick from Tuscaloosa. Joe Pa making his way back to Bryant-Denny Stadium for the first time since 1990. Neil?
All right, thank you, David. I read an interesting note about tonight's Penn State-Alabama game. The Crimson Tide leads the all-time series with the Nittany Lions 8-5. Joe Paterno has been on the sidelines for all 13 meetings between these storied programs. And all I thought to myself was, I think Joe Pa was on the sidelines when the French landed at Mobile in 1702.
Right. It's something else what he's been able to do. Just such a great tradition. And what a game tonight. 2 of the powerhouses, historical powerhouses going at it. Alabama, I think, has got the upper hand and going to put it to the Nittany Lions today. But it's going to be a great atmosphere there, that's for sure.
All right, we'll come back with more with Eric Zier. We'll check out Georgia's defense and what it's going to have to do today to stop the Gamecocks. We're just about an hour and 5 minutes away from kickoff. This is Georgia football from ISP. We have a top 25 matchup here in Columbia, South Carolina, as the Bulldogs will take on the Gamecocks. Let's pause for station identification. This is Georgia football from ISP. Man, they're gonna all come in at once, I think, Eric.
I think they may. It's starting to fill up a little bit right now. You know, we were talking about because of the noon kickoff, I don't think the place is going to be very amped up. Everybody is waiting to the last minute to come in because they're getting amped up outside, I think.
I think they are. And, of course, Eric's getting amped up in here because he's got his Gordos.
I do. As always, before the games, we always enjoy Gordo's authentic Mexican restaurant-style cheese dip. It's the best that you can find. It's available at your local retailer. We always enjoy it before the game.
Yep, let's get into the defense now. Eric Zier, last week against a lesser opponent, Bulldogs defense. We know all of that. But I thought in your blog this week that I saw on GeorgiaDogs.com that you had a great point that there wasn't, I'll quote you, not a hint of confusion. First time in the new scheme, not a hint of confusion.
Yeah, it really was an impressive performance because of that. You know, we were expected to dominate that football game because we're playing an opponent that shouldn't match up to us, and they didn't match up. But zero confusion. The one big play that the Cajuns had against us was not a blown coverage. It was a poor play where we bit up on a pump fake, and they got us on a corner and go. But zero confusion there. I do think we're going to see much more in the way of complexity of schemes today. I'm sure that we're going to bring more blitzes. We played a relatively base package last week, so there's more of a chance of it happening today. But I think these guys are ready to go. I think they've been coached up, and I think they've studied hard to get prepared for this year.
Well, we've heard a lot about the heftiness of Todd Grantham's defensive playbook. Georgia linebacker Christian Robinson.
It is a very big playbook, but he puts it in a way that you can understand, and if you study, you'll be able to handle it and get everybody else set up.
There's Christian Robinson. You know, my fear, Eric, is that with so much to learn in the playbook, Spurrier this week or maybe Bobby Petrino next week might capitalize against a defense that has not been in the scheme very long.
Yeah, I think that's a legitimate fear. I think, however, that this team is ready to go. I think the way that we prepared for last week, we'll see additional schemes, additional blitz packages in for today's game. But I feel confident that we're ready to go do that. And one thing to note, too, is that Steve Spurrier historically has not thrown hot or side adjustments when he sees a lot of teams that blitz. Now, that creates problems for you defensively if they're able to get the football out of their hand. But we can bring people from so many different angles. If you don't have those side adjustments built in, it can lead to turnovers. It can lead to some sloppy play on the offensive side of the ball. I think we have a chance of seeing that versus the other way today.
All right, how will our secondary match up against these huge South Carolina receivers?
Boy, I'll tell you what, Jeffries and Gurley and Moore, all those guys 6'4", 6'5", we're going to have our hands full, no doubt about it. We've got the athletes to go play against them. I think the key today is can we get to Garcia, make him move around, move his feet, and disrupt any kind of timing that they may have. Now, Garcia had a great game last week running the football as well, so when we get back there, we've got to keep him contained. But I think you contain big receivers like that by getting in the face and disrupting the timing of the quarterback.
All right, thank you, Eric Zier, for that little bit of a look at Georgia's defense. We're going to go over the game plan next with Z. Also, Scott Howard is going to check in with Coach Richt, and then we'll bring the whole broadcast team back together for a little roundtable to talk about today's Georgia-South Carolina game. Can you beat the pro? Choose more winners than the AJC's Jeff Schultz and win prizes. Go to Jeff's blog on AJC.com and sack Schultz. That's Jeff Schultz on AJC.com. Right around the bend, Eric Zier returns to give us today's game plan. It's traditionally a nail-biter, and the implications on the SEC East could be substantial. Georgia and South Carolina, just after noon. This is the Georgia Bulldogs Radio Network on ISP.
The Verizon Wireless Tailgate Show continues with this Bulldog Point of Pride. Presented by Plumbers, Pipe Fitters, and Technicians Local Union 72. We believe in our people. For the 411 on the University of Georgia, here's Steve Bell.
Bulldog fans, UGA researchers devote their lives to changing the world. The director of the University of Georgia Center for Tropical and Emerging Global Diseases, Dr. Dan Colley, received a 5-year, $3 million research grant to continue basic science studies on schistosomiasis in western Kenya. Now, this horrible disease affects 200 million people on the planet. Colley has devoted his entire professional life to controlling this dreadful disease and to alleviating the suffering of millions around the world. Researching ways to improve the global quality of life is another Bulldog Point of Pride.
Pre-game radio coverage continues with today's game plan. Presented by Cotton States Insurance. See the Cotton States financial representative near you or visit cottonstatesinsurance.com. Chalk in hand, here's Neil Hondo Williamson.
Yeah, then I'm going to hand the chalk over to the expert, actually. Thank you very much, and thank you to Steve Bell for that point of pride just a minute ago. Eric Zier, how are we doing on Texas Pete?
We're doing great on Texas Pete. Remember to stock up on plenty of Texas Pete sauces for your next tailgate because nothing wakes up food like Texas Pete.
All right, time for today's game plan. And Z, South Carolina looked rather formidable last week. Southern Miss is no pushover. It's not a third-tier sister of the poor type school. What were your observations from the Gamecocks' 41-13 win?
Well, Hondo, they are athletic and they are experienced. 15 returning starters from last year's squad, 8 on offense, 7 on the defensive side of the ball. Plenty of playmakers, too. Alshon Jeffrey had 7 catches for 106 yards. Steven Garcia, 16 out of 23, 193 yards for the air. What's most impressive, though, is the way he ran the football. Had 2 rushing touchdowns. You can't forget about super freshman Marcus Lattimore, who had 54 yards and 2 touchdowns. And all that on the offensive side of the ball. This defense is ranked in the top 15 nationally each of the past 2 years. So they've got all kinds of talent, that's for sure.
Yeah, what's most impressive about this South Carolina defense to you?
Well, I tell you, last week what was most impressive is the way they performed in the red zone. Southern Miss made it inside the Carolina 20-yard line 6 times. Only were able to get 2 field goals out of those 6 attempts that they had in the red zone. So these guys are athletic. Their pass defense, believe it or not, ranked 8th in the country last year, gave up right around 163 yards per game throwing the football. That really is the strength of this defense, although they were so good against the rush last week. It also helped that Southern Miss threw the football 57 times, so they're not going to see that today more than likely.
Right.
But this pass defense is very good. For us to execute and be successful, we've got to get and execute down in that red zone.
Here's Georgia linebacker Christian Robinson talking about Steve Spurrier game day surprises.
I know that they'll have some things we're not ready for, but, part of football is adjustment and being able to, change on the fly. And I feel like hopefully we'll be able to play as fast as we did this past Saturday. Just know that the opponent we're going up against is a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, and a little bit faster.
South Carolina's quarterback Stephen Garcia, Eric, has spent more time in Spurrier's doghouse than Snoopy has spent on top of his doghouse. Have you ever spoken to any of Spurrier's old Florida quarterbacks about the psychological toll that it took on them, if any?
Yeah, you know what I have. I've spent a lot of time with Shane Matthews and Danny Werfel, Doug Johnson, primarily those three, and just talking about what their experience was like. And there's no question that Spurrier's style of coaching could take a mental toll on you. Both Danny and Shane adapted very well to it. They played very well on top of that, so they never really got into it. Doug Johnson was a little bit of a different story. And if you're not playing well, Spurrier's going to get on top of you pretty quick and wear you down, and he's not afraid to yank somebody else or yank you out, put somebody else in the game, even rotate quarterbacks. It makes it very, very difficult to play. If you're going to play in his system, you've got to be mentally tough. And make no mistake, if Garcia struggles today, I wouldn't doubt if we see other quarterbacks shuffled into the game pretty quickly.
All right. Thank you, Eric Dyer. Eric will return with Loran Smith and Scott Howard in just a few moments. First, we're going to check in with Scott and Coach Richt with the Inside Skinny on today's game. It's a top 25 matchup from Columbia, Georgia and South Carolina, 55 minutes away on the Georgia Bulldog Radio Network from ISP.
We're back with Bulldogs head coach Mark Richt and the Inside Skinny, brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Call Geico at 800-947-AUTO or visit geico.com. Back with head coach Mark Richt as we get set for Georgia and South Carolina, the SEC opener. Coach, you had a very successful opener last week with the win over Louisiana Lafayette. You did that without some key parts to the team. You get some back this week, but yet you're missing some others. Can you talk a little bit about Washaun Ely and Tavares Keene coming back and not having A.J. Green today?
Right. As you said, none of those guys played in game one, and that is a lot of offensive firepower, guys that are pretty proven. And we still had a pretty fine performance in that game offensively. Getting Washaun back is big, especially since Caleb has tweaked his ankle a little bit. And I think he'll be fine for today, but he missed a little bit of practice, and I'm not sure he's 100%. So getting Washaun back is very important, and then getting Tavares King back is a big plus because he's gotten to the point where we really believe he's a playmaker for us. He would have been a starter if he didn't have his off the field issue, but now he's paid his price and he's back ready to play. So he'll do well. Now AJ not being there certainly changes the way you approach the game because you do need to have a plan to get the ball to number 8 if he's in the game. Well, he's not in the game, so that means we've got to have other guys step up and make plays at all positions, especially in the wide receiver, tight end positions, and then you got to block a little better, you got to run a little better, you got to play defense a little bit better, and handle your special teams as you should. So. We're an outstanding football team with A.J. Green, but I think we're also outstanding without him.
I was going to say, you do still have a lot of weapons, as you mentioned, with other receivers in Tavares King, and Chris Durham had a nice game last week. And at the tight end position, you've got 3 guys in there that can catch and run. So, yes, it hurts not to have A.J., but it's not like it's the end of the world.
No, it's not. And we played last year without him a few games and actually had some of the greatest offensive outputs of the season last year. If you look at the games he was gone and what we did yardage-wise and points-wise, we played pretty well without him. So, we're definitely a better team with him, but without him, I still think we can. We've got what it takes to compete at this level.
When you get ready for South Carolina or any team in the SEC, do you focus on just doing what Georgia does best offensively and defensively, or do you kind of tweak the game plan a little bit to do something specific for the team that you're playing?
Well, you have to look at what the other team's doing schematically. You know, what kind of coverages do they like the most in certain situations? What front do they play? There's certain fronts that are vulnerable to certain runs that we have within our playbook. So we don't just invent a bunch of new plays, but that's what camp's about. You get into camp and you run everything within your playbook and give everybody a taste of it. And then when you play a certain team, one particular run may be better than it is against another one. So you emphasize the runs that you think gives you the best chance, the route concepts that you think gives you the best chance. And then you also have to play within, a freshman quarterback's ability to be comfortable. So that's kind of the juggling act that we go through every week.
What was your breakdown of Aaron's performance last week?
I thought it was very good. I mean, if you judge it as it was, which was his first start, he is a freshman. I think he did excellent. If he'd have been a third-year starter and made a couple of the decisions that he made, I'd probably be a little less. I'd be a little bit tougher on the grade, but I know, and I've been saying it all along, that he will make mistakes as he goes. He's young, and that's part of learning. And last week he made a couple mistakes that didn't cost us a game, thank goodness. And now that we're getting into league play, I think the margin for error, of course, is going to be much less. And when he does make a mistake, hopefully it'll be something that we can overcome. He's got to understand that, sometimes when a play's not there, when the clock's ticking, you've got to throw the ball to bounds to guarantee a chance for points. Now, he made an aggressive play. He scored. Everybody cheered. And I was glad to get 7. Don't get me wrong, but if you do those kind of things on a consistent basis, there'll be a lot of times where you end up with no points, and then you lose the game by 2, and you're miserable.
Any surprises in store today?
Oh, I'm sure there'll be some surprises, but none that we're planning, but I'm sure I'll be surprised by something before the day is over.
All right, Coach, thanks very much. Much good luck against South Carolina in the SEC opener. We'll talk to you after the game.
All right, thank you. Looking forward to that.
That's Coach Mark Richter with the Inside Skinny. Let's go back to Neil.
All right, thank you, Scott, and thank you to Coach Rick very much. Hey, next time you're on your way to Athens, make sure you stop by and get some barbecue from Harry's Pig Shop. Now you can have the best barbecue that Athens has to offer. Just call ahead, and they'll have your package available for pickup on the drive into town from Highway 129.
Bulldog fans, GeorgiaDogs.com is your first and best source for Bulldog news, scores, highlights, interviews, and behind-the-scenes video. You can also buy authentic Dogs gear in the G-Shop or bid against other Bulldog fans in our exclusive online auctions. Visit GeorgiaDogs.com today.
All right, Eric Zier, Scott Howard, Lauren Smith next on the field as we get ready for the Dogs and the Gamecocks. Georgia warming up right in front of us. We're on the 42-yard line. Don't you go away. This is Georgia football from ISP.
It was a challenge, just, the fans are so loud, but, we've practiced it so much that, just getting past the initial shock of how loud it is and getting that to everybody, as the game wore on, we were able to do well.
That's Christian Robinson, linebacker from the Dogs, talking about the Georgia team, Georgia fans rather, making a lot of noise when Louisiana Lafayette was on the field last year. You know what I've never thought of? This is going to sound silly, I know. I always think about the quarterback being hampered by crowd noise, but I've never thought about how great it is for us to be on the road, because our young defense in this new scheme will be able to call out signals without a lot of noise, because the South Carolina fans won't cheer when their team is when their offense is on the field. That'd be a pretty good thing, I guess. Eric, what do you think about that?
I was having headset problems there, so I'm not quite sure where we were going with that.
I'm not sure what I was saying either, and I'm not sure any of our listening audience is either. So we'll just leave it at that. Anyway, let's go upstairs to our play-by-play man, Scott Howard, voice of the Dogs. Scott, Steve Spurrier has 2 extra days to prep.
Yes, he does, and that can be advantageous, I guess. If you, I used to get that check mark on my report card when I was in grammar school. Did not use my time wisely. I think he probably knows how to use his time wisely. So they had a couple of days. They had that Thursday game. and he can prepare for the Georgia team that he knows. What he couldn't prepare for necessarily at that point was what our defense looked like. They had to wait until Saturday to see our game and then kind of, go to school on that after the contest. So, there's probably some things that they could go ahead and work on, but there was other things that they had to wait on. So it might be a very slight advantage for a guy like Steve Spurrier, but I don't think it's a decisive advantage at all.
Eric Zier, if you are Steve Spurrier, how do you beat the 3-4 defense?
A couple of things. I think first and foremost, you've got to establish a running game. Get Marcus Lattimore, their super freshman, involved in this game early. Establish a run, and you've got to have success on first down and not get yourself into second and long and third and long situations. They do that, they're going to have a pretty good chance today.
Loran Smith nudged me and said, have you even brought up Brendan Smith's name yet today? And I went, ooh. So Loran, he turned into quite the triple threat, the first one that we've seen start all three ways since Champ Bailey.
Yes, my cousin is doing a very good job for Georgia football right now. And he's going to play a lot on defense. He's going to return punts, and I think you might see him on offense. I don't know that decision's been made, but he's somebody that's going to be the workhorse today, or at least he's going to have a workhorse load. But I really like his speed, and I like his attitude. He just has a terrific attitude. He's always smiling, and he's always positive.
Boy, he sure lit it up last week, Scott Howard. You were jumping out of your skin on a couple of those plays by Brandon Smith.
Well, that's what he brings. I mean, when he's on the field offensively, it's very exciting. He's lining up at one of the receiver positions. He's not out there as a decoy. He's probably going to get the ball in some manner. So, and that he can go the distance. Just give him a little seam, and he can go, 50, 60, 70 yards, whatever he needs to do. So that's why the excitement, because he can go to the end zone at any moment.
Eric Zier, no A.J. Green today. So, will the Bulldogs pass less or more without him taking double teams down the field?
It's a good question. I don't think our game plan is going to change all that much. I think what will change is how teams play us defensively, as opposed to seeing a lot of roll coverage or maybe some cover two, trying to get help on A.J. over the top. We're probably going to see some more man-to-man with single safety. That's going to open up the throwing game some more. I think that we're going to come in, still want to try to establish that running game, but when we need to throw the ball, we're going to have some opportunities if we do see single safety to get the football downfield in some one-on-one situations, which could lead to some big plays.
All right, men, thank you very much. Great job today on our tailgate show. We're sitting down here on the field. That's where Loran will remain. And Eric Zier and I will head up to the press box in just a couple of minutes. Georgia team is in white today with the silver pants. They're stretching on the field right now. That's going to do it for our Verizon Wireless Tailgate Show. We'd like to thank Charles Youngs, the man with the technical plan here in Columbia. Also, David Shoemate, our producer in Bulldog Studios. For Scott Howard, Loran Smith, and Eric Zier, this is Neil Hondo Williamson. The BB&T countdown to kickoff is next. Then we'll raise the curtain on the SEC season. Georgia and South Carolina in a top 25 matchup. You've been listening to the Verizon Wireless Tailgate Show on the Georgia Bulldogs Radio Network from ISP.